So good morning, everyone. It's Brian and Nigel here for the webinar today. We're just going to give everyone a couple of minutes just so we can allow everyone just to settle in with a cup of tea or coffee while they listen to us. So we'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll start. So thank everyone for making the webinar today to discuss the exciting subject of searching for a better performing virtual workspace. So today we've got 40 minutes within this session. You have the ability to type questions in the top right-hand corner of the tool. Otherwise, you can save it towards the end and we can run through that. So if we just move on to an introduction, we've got myself and Nigel as the two illustrious leaders on this webinar. Two of the best looking individuals that I would say are probably a very good advert for Regain, for a hair regrowth product. So Nigel looks after, as one of the technical consultants for FS Logics, and myself, Brian Dunleavy from Ultima. I'm responsible for the enterprise solution portfolio that we take to market. So just a very quick whistle-stop tour of Ultima, just give you an idea of who we are and what we do. We're an industry-leading services-based partner. We've been around for 25 years. We have over 400 people involved in our business. We very much are a services-led organization, which is where this solution itself lends itself to. So Ultima as an organization has 5 pillars to our business. We have a risk management component, which very much is, I suppose, focusing these days on things like GDPR, ISO certifications, and helping people address their risk concerns. It's dealt with normally at a management layer, and then as we move to the next 4 pillars, it's where technology gets introduced. So we have the ability to advise and provide guidance around strategy and planning. We have the ability then to supply all the equipment and the software, hardware relating to that strategy. We then have the ability to implement and optimize that with very good and tier 1 based consultants and engineers. And then we have the ability to manage service that. So we very much class ourselves as an end-to-end solution player. What I wanted to do is allow Nigel to give you an insight into who FS Logics are, and then how we jointly, Ultima and FS Logics, are jointly taking the solution to market and really helping organizations address some of the pain points that we certainly see the solution taking advantage of. So I'll hand over to Nigel. As we say, any questions, if you want to tap them into the tool, otherwise save them at the end. We'll keep it nice and short, and hopefully we've got some good activity to speak to you afterwards. So I'll hand over to Nigel.
Good morning, everyone. Let me start with, so my name's Nigel Woods. I've been involved in Citrix and VMware for the last 20 years or so had done a lot of the implementations around UK and Ireland, and so I've been involved in many of the pieces to make particularly virtual desktops work better than straight out of the box. And FS Logics is one of those tools really that we'll show you today, some of the things that we can do with FS Logics, which will really assist in solving some of the issues that have been around for many, many years and the important thing with FSLogix is a lot of the things we can do is very simple, very straightforward. Simplicity is a key to the way we work. So FSLogix was created just coming up 4 years ago by two industry veterans who got together, Kevin Goodman and Randy Cook, who've got together, and essentially Randy's the main man with the clever technology to have this kernel level driver which will actually allow you to redirect and hide files, folders, registry keys, registry hives, hide printers basically. Where does this mean? What does this mean in the terms of Office 365, etc.? That's where we'll talk about as we go through. Just showing some of the companies that already have our solutions. I'll go through the different modules that we run. We focus very much over the whole of Europe and the rest of the world as well. So we have decent size implementations up to 20,000 users in healthcare, right down to 10, 20 users at some of our Office 365 implementations. Testimonials is always great. It's always good to get some of the industry experts to tell us how good we are and how easy it is. Some of these you may know of. Many of them actually, in fact all of them I think are Europe-based and some UK-based. But what you find is that it all comes down to this is a solution that can be put in very, very straightforward, very easy, and without FSLogix, products like Office 365 will struggle with performance in a virtual desktop environment. So what do we do? Well, we actually have 4 modules. Today we're focusing on the top 2 of these, which are profiles and Office 365 containers. But I'll just talk you through each one of them just to give you an idea of the sort of things we can do. If some of the other ones are of interest, then yeah, please to speak to Brian and his team, and we can do a separate GoToMeeting and explain those pieces. So what do we have? We have profile containers, so we have our own profile solution. I'll go down into further details there. The aim with our profile solution is get rid of the profile management with the way we work, and we're looking to get sub 10-second login times. Plus, and that's the important piece, is fast application performance. Office 365 containers, that's really the main focus today. We'll show you how we make Office 365 Mail, OneDrive, Skype for Business, all of these work within a virtual desktop. And then 2 that we won't talk about anymore today, which will be our apps module. This is the ability to hide applications, run multiple versions. I'm doing a lot with things like Visio Project, being able to hide those and use it as a way of licensing these in a virtual environment, and the ability to hide plugins, particularly Office Outlook plugins, so that we can seamlessly, when a user logs in, we can dynamically create a desktop which is required, which is what they require to do their work. If something is hidden, we're completely hiding it from the operating system for that user for that session. Then Java is another module we have. We still see a lot of people with Java. It doesn't seem to go away. What we can do, though, is we can install multiple versions of Java into one image, and then per URL, per application, select the version of Java that's available in those scenarios. Any more of those, as I say, please do talk to Brian and his team. So the main focus, we say today, is Office 365, and when you're planning to go through down the Office 365 route, there is plenty of areas to think about, particularly things like I/O. So when you're moving to Office 365, you're essentially taking the data that you've been using locally into the cloud. So it's all around bandwidth, the requirements to get this through, how all this information is going to come through. Single sign-on, so the ability for your Outlook, Office apps to be able to integrate into what is essentially a cloud email system. But the important pieces that we really focus on is if you're going to put your data into the cloud, your email data, etc., um, particularly within a virtual desktop environment, you're going to struggle with the fact that being able to run Outlook online will mean that every time that you need data, you're going to have to go up to the Office 365 mail cloud to actually get that data. So what happens is invariably you need to switch on what's called cached exchange mode. Cached exchange mode means that you're storing the data locally again and within OSTs, and that's where the issues come. Is the size of these OSTs obviously is very much how much of a mailbox size you've got. And what you've got to think about is how you're going to use these OSTs, what location, what's the impact, particularly with the CPU and network, by doing these redirects, putting cached exchange mode on. One really key one, and I'll talk about that in a fair detail as we go through, is search. So the speed of search is very key in knowing whether this will work in your environment. So we'll start with profile containers. As I mentioned to start with, what we specialize in is the ability to redirect anything. So as part of sort of growing up with FSLogix, we soon found out that the demand was really saying to us, look, if you can redirect things, what can you do with profiles? Ever since I've been doing Citrix, profiles have been probably one of the biggest banes of our lives, and there's a many tool out there to do profile management. Most of them are pretty effective, to be fair. They can do the majority of things, but they need managing, they need looking after, they need infrastructure. And the key piece, though, is that not really any of them have a way of eliminating the need for folder redirection. Now, folder redirection is the piece that we fix with our solution, because what we're actually doing is we're redirecting the whole profile into a virtual disk. The virtual disk is stored on the network, and the benefits of the way we do this is that we're actually talking to the virtual disk at block level, at the TCP/IP level. So one, it's always up to date, but two, we don't need to be sending lots and lots of files between the file server and the desktop, whether that be some sort of virtual desktop, XenApp, XenDesktop, VMware View, Horizon View, RDSH. For us, it doesn't matter. The profile solution is still the same. Folder redirections are an interesting one, even desktop redirection, which most people would redirect desktops as a standard. Just to put the icons onto the desktop means that you have to pull every single file back to your session, open them, extract the icon, and display. And it does that every time you refresh the desktop. So the actual amount of resources, not just the bandwidth, this is the amount of resources it requires to do this is frightening, really. If you've done something like application data redirection, it's another one that is helping to improve profile login speed, because you're reducing the size of the profile. Unfortunately, what you're doing there is opening lots and lots of network connections to the file server. So eventually your file server gets exhausted of network connections and your applications slow down. So what this profile solution will do is not only get to sub 10 seconds profile load time. I've actually seen 6 seconds across the board in a XenApp environment, 6 seconds, every single user, 900 users. It's probably the best one I've seen so far. But more importantly, we do speed up the performance of these applications, because if you're taking the pressure away from the valuable resources for the virtual machines, then that enables the applications to work better. So I talked about folder redirection. when you've set folder redirection up, the resources required on those file servers is the piece that really does affect the performance, and that's the piece that we really fix with this pure profile solution. But a lot of people are happy with their profiles, and they've invested a lot of money in a profile solution as well. It's not that easy to change overnight with it. So we created another module. We called it the FS Logics Office 365 Containers. The name will probably change, or there'll be some different variations of this, because what this effectively does is allow you to keep your profile solution, but redirect all of the persistent data away from invariably a non-persistent environment if you're running in any sort of Citrix or VMware virtual desktop. What does that mean? It means we're still using these VHDs, these virtual disks that I talked about, sitting on a file server, block level access to it. But what we're doing now is we're allowing the persistent data, so cached exchange, the OSTs, they'll be sitting on this virtual disk. But other things that you may be looking at, such as OneDrive for Business, so caching the OneDrive for Business data, Skype for Business presence data, even just the license that Office 365 needs to check out. If you're running a normal profile solution, it won't be able to keep that Office 365 license. It has to go back to Microsoft every time to get that. Any issues with trying to get that means you won't be able to run those Office 365 modules. So it's quite a key piece to actually be able to get access to. So what this means in reality is what we're doing is we're making the virtual desktops run as though it was cached exchange mode onto a PC or laptop. So we're looking for the same sort of performance that you're getting when you cache all your data locally within these virtual desktops. We've got many customers already got this, and this is some example of the case study that we had for one of our American customers. And so they went down cached exchange mode in their Citrix environment, and performance was poor. Not just the ability to get to your emails, it's also, and we'll talk about it a lot, the ability to search, the ability to actually run in a cached exchange mode. So with putting FS Logics in, they saw an improvement of 300% over the solution that they had before. And the great thing with all of this is very simple to put in. It's not a lot of time to actually get this up and running. Everything we do allows individual users and groups to be set up so that you can test this very easily. You can put this into a test scenario. You can put this in. I have actually done this in a live environment immediately, because you can just put an include group and just include individual users. So this particular scenario, they saw employee productivity increase by 40 hours per user. This is their figures that they came out with. But I talked about resources, the fact that we're doing everything this at block level. We're reducing the amount of network traffic, but also reducing, as it said on here, reducing the file server utilization by 80%. So we're taking away some of the pressure points that you see in any environment that's running in a virtual desktop. What does it see from if a user could get down to this point? They wouldn't actually even see the Windows junction anymore, because we've removed the little arrow that's next to this Outlook folder. So, but what this is really showing is that we're now into where the cached exchange data is stored in your user profile in App Data Local Microsoft. So it's not, it will be roamed in normal roaming profile. The thing with OSTs is we're seeing at least I'm seeing anything from 20, 30 gigs OSTs, massive things. You do not want to leave these in the profile because your profile login times will go 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So this is a junction point. We've actually, in the latest version, removed the need for the junction point, which allows us to make OneDrive for Business work in a proper environment, and actually a supported environment in Citrix. And so everything below this folder will be actually stored on the VHD on the file server. What FSLogix does in the background, as I say, this is a service, as a kernel level, we're actually fooling Microsoft to thinking that that folder is where you'd expect it to be on the C drive. Actually, we're redirecting that to our VHDs, our virtual disks on the file server. It's a drop-in solution, so there's a GPO which I'll show you in a minute. What do the user see? Yet again, users not usually get into disk management, but from an administrative point of view, what you'll see is just basic disks in disk management. They're attached at login time. It's really critical because there's a lot of solutions out there that have containers, VHDs that are connected at the hypervisor level, which are very difficult to scale, so they don't perform. We're seeing a number of these that have quite low limitations, 20, 25 containers, and the scalability, the performance starts reducing. With the way we do these, mount these VHDs, we can actually scale to 20 to 25,000 VHDs. So quite a significant difference in the way we do these. I think it's quite an interesting one here from White Hat. We're seeing that Office 365 is being talked about by everybody at the moment. Microsoft are, in a polite way, forcing you down this route rather than allowing you to have Exchange on-premise for too much longer. We're seeing a lot of customers who are really, as part of the Microsoft renewals, are getting Office 365 as part of that. Some would call it free. Some would actually say that's just a way of getting you into these into the cloud Office 365 email solutions. So if you're not there yet, my guess is within the next 6 months to a year, this will absolutely be on your radar. So, Office 365 containers very, very straightforward to set up. It's a grid policy template. We set about 5 settings. We have a file share where your VHDs are stored. A file share is just a normal SMB file share, so that we have the same sort of permissions as profiles. It does say no reboot required. Obviously, it's always nice to reboot, but that's all you need, an agent on the desktop, so whether it's XenApp, XenDesktop, View, an agent on there, and then you're up and running, really. So we have an include and exclude groups so that we can easily test for individual users. So just to show you a scenario of how we test some of these things, we use Splunk to do the monitoring and to look at login times, etc. And what we created was an environment where, one, we're using our profile containers, and the other one was just a normal roaming profile. What we did see was the difference, firstly, of course, with the login times. So the traditional roaming profile was taking some 43 seconds to load. With the FSLogix profile, containers, 7.78 seconds, so sub 8 seconds. But that's only part of the story. As I say, everything we talk about, if you've reduced the login time by that amount of time, we've stopped the need for bringing all of these files over particularly from roaming profiles, or even hybrid profiles still need an element of files being brought over. So it's the amount of resources to process those files is the key. So what do we see? We see the resources required. This is looking at processor requirements. Basically, what you'll see with the FS Logics ones is just the one spike where it needs to actually connect and get the profile information, but massive spikes from a traditional roaming profile where there's a number of areas where it's copying loads and loads of files down, and the resources required to get those. And then we get to something that we brought out last year, which we can talk about cached exchange mode. That's great. We've managed to fix getting all of that data somewhere local, somewhere performing. But search is another area. Search for, so this is mail search, so Office 365 mail search. What happens at the moment is you would go to the cloud and it would search on the Office 365 cloud to get your any searches that you've done. This we've found has been not only incredibly slow, but has a feature, let's call it, of if it doesn't find it in a timely fashion, it doesn't bother giving you the results. So actually we've done comparisons where we've used a cached version of Outlook compared to an online version of Outlook going to get the searches on the cloud, and you get different results. It's incredible that you can have these things, because it really does affect what the usage of this is. There's two elements of search. So a single user mode, which is essentially if you're running a VDI platform, so Zen Desktop, Horizon View, and multi-user, which is your RDSH, your Zen app, terminal servers, whatever you want to call it. Single user mode's a little bit easier for us to do. Essentially what happens is the mail data, that search data, is stored with the Windows search in index.dat. So what we're doing is we're actually turning Windows search back on in a virtual environment. It's always been turned off as default just because the amount of performance degradation because of it. But what we do is we turn on indexing, and then we make the index service only index the mail data. This allows us just to capture that, get into the VHD with our redirections, and then when you log in on another session, we can connect that in, inject that into the index.dat, and your search data is already there indexed. Multi-user is a little bit more complex because in a Zen app environment, RDSH environment, there's one index.dat file for all users, so everybody uses this same index.dat file. So we have to extract the individual pieces for that user and then inject them back in, basically. So multi-user mode is more challenging, but we now have that as a solution as well. So if you don't have search enabled, it's online search, as I mentioned. It says no cache, so everything you're doing is unpredictable because you're relying on so many things: network, all your hosted services, your bandwidth to the mail, and one quite key one, and there's a little video in a second, is just to show you how much CPU hits on every search. So you run a lot of users running search within a Zen app environment, and you'll soon be hitting 100% on those Zen app servers. So what we do is as I say, we search index per user. Yet again, remember, you can keep your existing profile solution. Everything we do around this is over the top of what you've got at the moment. This, what we're seeing is an 80% reduction in CPU utilization for these searches, and allows you to get 20% greater density on these devices. So this is just showing you the type of performance so as you see on the right-hand side on the graphs, the amount of CPU, disk, and network required to do a search within Zen app, doing an online search basically. And then we have just a little video just to show you that what happens when we change it and we're actually using our solution. So what we've done basically is we've turned indexing on for mail and you'll see there's 31,000 items already indexed. So that's 31,000 items that don't have to go to the cloud to find the details. So you'll now see that everything is instant, performance is great, but more importantly, as you see from the graphs, actually very little resources used. So that's the key on that is the resource usage. You know, we see the CPU impact of a search. Although we spike with FSLogix, we are a small spike compared to a very long process with an online search. So what do we see? Just to summarize, the legacy search methods is unpredictable behavior. You do not know if you're going to get all of your data back, and a really poor user experience. I'm probably doing 7 or 8 of these a week at the moment, and seeing the experience that people are having going on site or remoting in, and the actual way that searches come back. You can wait 2 or 3 seconds per search item. It just doesn't fit in an environment where basically email is critical to most companies these days. So what do we do? To summarize, where do we optimization? Where's our optimization? This is all around, as we mentioned, not only reducing the I/O requirements, but seeing CPU reduction, reducing the impact that search has on all these counters. By reducing all of these, it means that we can get more sessions per desktop, per XenApp server, and still maintain that application performance. And then, of course, reducing the amount of login time, but also increasing the application performance. So questions. As you'll see, there's plenty of articles on the FSLogix website. We have lots of documentation, lots of white papers, lots of videos to watch as well, so you could see all of this in action, and lots of people saying good things about us. This is another one. Gabe Newth on brianmadden.com was just saying that it's something that we've needed for the last 15 years, and absolutely, I've spent years and years trying to find an answer to some of these things, and for me, FSLogix fits the bill for these. So is there any questions? Let's have a look, see what we've got that's come out. So one of the questions on here, does FSLogix profiles include the Office 365 container, or are they 2 separate licenses? One would both assume both would be necessary. So yes, so what we do is if you've got your existing profile solution, you're happy with that, then we will sell you the Office 365 module. But if you want to use our profile solution, you'll still need the Office 365 module, because the Office 365 containers will do all the indexing, the search. The Office 365 containers will be doing a lot more as we go forward. It will be allowing us to redirect basically any persistent data. So if there's data in program data that you need to get away from your non-persistent image. I've got a customer whose application writes to temp, C:/temp. I think the folder name should give you a clue of what it's supposed to be used for, but that's their core data in there. So we can just redirect those into these VHDs. So really the answer is, if you're happy with your profile solution, it's just Office 365 containers. But if you need our profile solution, you'll need our Office 365 containers to do the redirection of things like search data.
So other questions that we thought during other webinars that people have been interested in, is there an evaluation offer for you to take advantage of? And the answer is yes. So if there is something that you would want to look at implementing a trial, then please do get in touch with ourselves. So Nigel's details are on the next slide. Up to the next one. There's Nigel's details as well as my details. So if there's any questions that you have, that if you're not able to think of them now, then please pop those across to sales@FSLogix or to myself. So just to add some credibility to from Ultima's perspective, we've been around for 25 odd years, and we're one of the industry-leading desktop solution providers. We've got excellent capability around Microsoft, VMware, and Citrix. And FS Logix has pretty much gate crashed most of our consultants' agendas purely on the basis of the optimization pieces and certainly the ROI angle that most organizations are looking at. The ability to assist organizations and make things simpler to manage and simpler to administer are very much where our consultants are looking to help our customers. So it's very much on the agenda of all of our current and previous engaged VDI or desktop-based solutions. And as we evolve our offering, we're having to create what we call a workspace, which is our ability to allow users to interact with all of their data from any device, from anywhere. And for us, we see FS Logix as a major contributor towards changing the way we deliver things. So certainly from our side, I'm hoping that gives you a bit of an idea as to where FS Logix fits in. One of the other questions which we get asked is, what are the storage requirements? So I'll let Nigel explain that in a bit more detail.
Yeah, so storage requirements, of course, it's how large is a piece of string. What we're finding is, because with Office 365 Mail you get 50 gigs as a standard, all of a sudden everybody has doesn't tidy their inboxes, and the storage requirements go through the roof. So what we're saying is, one thing that you're doing by bringing back the storage way back from the cloud is you need plenty of it. I usually see an average of sort of 3 to 5 gigs per user if you're been on Office 365 for a while. The OST data doesn't have to be on particularly fast storage. I've got customers just buying a NAS to put those on, or slower spindled on the SANs. If you go down our profile solution, we would say as fast as you can afford. But those profiles are going to be small, so we're not going to use a lot of storage space for those.
Great, thanks, Nigel. And in terms of a rough idea of pricing, given an order of magnitude?
Yeah, so we've made pricing fairly straightforward. Each module is £13 per user per year. And so if you just need our Office 365 containers, basically that's £13 per user per year. We'll follow your Office 365 subscription. Everything we do now is subscription based. There is particular deals with having the profiles and Office 365, but yet again, contact Brian and his team and they can give you more information on those costings.
Great, so thank you very much everyone for making the time today. I'm hoping that's given you, as we say, a good insight into some of the thought process for your desktop and user community. If there are any questions, drop us the details, but thanks very much for joining today.